So what you're going to want to do is have your notes and have your TRF template open. We went over the pieces of the TRF yesterday and on Tuesday, or sorry, yesterday and Monday. So make sure you are clear on just the basics with that. You're going to want to fill out all this top stuff, of course. So who are you? I'm Larissa Wetchko. Who's your teacher? Weirdly enough, I'm my own teacher. Have a tutor, leave it blank, date, period that you're in, and then the subject that you're focusing on. So I'm going to say English for this. I'm in period 1. It's 10:20. So you want to make sure you fill out the top. So once we get going with TRFs, I will not score your TRF unless it has all of that top stuff filled out, because it's really important that I know, that the teacher knows like what subject you're focusing on, and that we can keep track of like when this TRF is from. So you're ignoring this part. This is for scoring later. You can see that the TRF, which is this thing you're filling out right now, is worth almost half of the total score for tutorial. So it is a big deal to make sure you're prepared before tutorial starts. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a topic or essential question. So looking at your focus notes, and remember, you can also look at your quizzes. You can look at other homework assignments. You can look at other notes. You can look at anything related to a class resource. I'm just looking at my sample notes for my English class, which this is just, again, a simple thing I found online to help illustrate the process. So the topic that I'm looking at is literary elements. And then you're going to want to look at something, think of something that you're confused about. It could be a really specific question, or it could be a general area. So let's say that I am confused about how to identify what type of conflict is in a story. So if you look at these notes, you can see that's a question about the content of my notes, something related to the topic that I was focusing on in class. So I'm going to say, how do you tell what type of conflict is in a story? All right, my source here is my lecture notes. Your source might be a certain chapter in your textbook. It might be a certain assignment. It might be a study guide. Just make sure it's something you can point back to later. Key academic vocabulary. Things that if you were going to explain this like confusion, you would need the people that are listening to you to understand certain words. So I'm going to say plot. For me to talk about conflict, I think we have to be able to talk about plot. Plot is the events in a story. You're looking up the definition, you're using your notes. It's just so that you can explain this to someone else. So I'm going to say plot, and I'm going to say conflict, which this comes right from my notes. It's the problem of the story. All right, what do I know about my question? So think about not just the things on your notes, but other resources. What do you know related to this confusion? Stuff that you are familiar with. So I'm going to say things that I know. Plots have conflicts. And then I definitely know there are different kinds of conflicts. Your TRF is going to be a lot more detailed and complicated. I really just wanted to show the process, like I've said before. So these are really simplified. There are different types of conflicts. Down here, this is going to be you thinking about like walking your tutorial group up to the process right until your point of confusion, which the point of confusion is that question that's stumping you. So when I'm thinking about this, I'm going to say what I already know. I know that there are 6 types of conflict, and all of them involve man versus something, right? So something else. If you look at the notes, that's what's going on here. All right. I also know that there are 2 main categories, internal and external. Okay, that's also from my notes. The general steps that I took, so you could just list them out. I'm going to start with just number 1. I consulted my notes and reviewed the definitions of key terms. I thought about different examples of conflict we've reviewed in class. And then I tried to apply the types of conflict to, I'm going to just make up a book that we're reading in class. Let's say it's Of Mice and Men. All right, and that's the part where I'm stumped. I've reached my point of confusion now. I've walked my group through the steps I've taken, and now I'm stumped because my point of confusion is that I'm not sure how to tell which type of conflict this is. So I think my tutorial question, which, remember, this is now made more specific, so it's got to be a little more detailed than this one, but it's still dealing with the same basic confusion. So after the process that I followed, I think now I'm realizing I need to pay more attention to certain like plot elements in order to know the conflict. So I'm going to say what literary elements do I need to understand in order to identify the type of conflict. All right. So I've taken my initial question, which I'm curious about how to know what type of conflict is in a particular story. I've looked at key vocabulary, defined it for my group. I've taken stock of what I already know. I've showed my process up until that confusion point. And then now I've refined my question. What literary elements do I need to understand about Of Mice and Men? Because that's the one I'm using in this fake situation, in order to identify the type of conflict. And now this is what I'm going to be talking to my group about, my tutorial group. Your tutorial, your TRF, will be a lot more complicated than this. This is just a really simple one. I wanted to walk you through a really basic version of the TRF. Okay.